This is my first YouTube garden tour from the Therapeutic Garden. Starting with my front porch. This is the view from the front porch. Our house is on a 1/4 of an acre of land. And so I'm going to take you on a tour. These are pink roses. I've had these roses for years. Probably one of the first things I planted when I moved in here, which was about 23, 24 years ago. And sometimes it looks like it's dead and dying, and other times it looks gorgeous like this. I actually moved this rose bush last spring or summer, and it was just a twig, and now look at it. Wow, that was a great move. When I moved on this property, the previous owner had hostas all over the property, and over the years I've moved them and positioned them to where I like them to be. We've had a lot of rain lately, so you can see this one branch sticking up. It was perfectly manicured by myself a few days ago, and I believe this is called a pygmy red burning bush. Typically is very red. And these are my mums coming back from last year, and they look like they're going to be bigger and better than they were when I bought them last year. Here's the pink azalea bush. This is it's not a hibiscus. I forget the name of this plant. But when it gets flowers, it's going to be a beauty. I can't help but pick this weed because I may not see it later. Has to be in front. Another azalea. This was supposed to be my gladiolas. I'm not sure what's going on here. I see a bunch of weeds, so I'm gonna have to get in here and weed. I do see a few of the gladiolas coming up. Not enough of them based on what I planted. So I'll have to buy some more and do a lot of weeding over here. This side of the property is nothing to see here. I'm gonna walk around here to get to the back of the property. I think I'm going to change my shoes because the grass is very wet. It's been raining at least like 3 days in a row, and the grass is still very wet. So I'm gonna go change my shoes. I don't have any proper shoes, and then we'll finish the tour. Let me get my coffee. I'm just gonna forewarn you, you may see a lot of mistakes in this video. I really just don't have the time for editing. So I'm just gonna post raised it as it is, no matter how long it is, no matter what's going on in it. You're going to see it as it is, because one of the things that keeps me from posting these videos is the time it would take to edit. And I used to try to spend a lot of time and get frustrated doing the editing, and it usually just stops me in my tracks. So this raised bed here, my husband built for me, his own hands, by himself. I was a little bit of help, but I couldn't help much. Around the time when he was building this, I had recently had a fall and wasn't able to lift anything. So he pretty much did it all himself. He had these stones delivered here. He did the grading. He did everything. And he did a darn good job, I might say. This was the first raised bed that I had. And here you can see my camomiles are blooming, blossoming. They're just gorgeous. I haven't picked any yet. I'm gonna go in the house later and check to see what I already have and see if I want to pick any this year at all. I think I already have a lot of dried chamomile for teas. And here, these are my brassicas. I'm sorry, these are not brassicas. These are, well, they're chard and spinach here. I think mostly up here it might be Swiss chard. I'm not sure that's considered a brassica. But definitely some greens. And hopefully it will not get too hot before they have a chance to take off. You can see here, this is a tomato plant that volunteered there. I do make my own compost. I'll show you that on another time. But that's volunteered because of the compost I put down. And here I have some spinach, which is already trying to go to seed, so I'm not sure I'll get to enjoy that. I did plant it a little late, so that's my fault. And we have some carrots growing. Hopefully, I was hoping that the chamomile will give them enough shade. Plus, you can see I have a shade cloth over, so the carrots will get a chance to grow. We'll see how it works out. I just planted some stuff there. I didn't plan it out. Normally, I'm like super planning, and it just takes up a lot of time, so I just threw some seeds down this time. My rosemary, this has been here a couple years. I had one here before that. It lasted maybe a year or two. I dug it up, put this one down a year ago, and it is flourishing. It's gorgeous, and I do come and clip from it all the time. We passed the herb garden, but we'll get back to that. I may actually skip that on this video since we passed it. This is my tomato and bean bed. So here I have long beans. You see they all popped up at the same time. They're taking off. However, the slugs are eating it. I'm gonna put down some slug bait because I feel like I don't have any choice. These are my tomatoes. Now I actually planted tomato seeds. This little one here is from the seed that I planted. All the rest of these are volunteers that I transplanted over here. And these are raised beds that I brought offline, and my husband helped me put them together. And at night it's really pretty with the lights around it. You see I have lights around that one as well. You can see I also planted some pepper plants. I planted sweet peppers over here, which I do every year. Sometimes they take off, sometimes they don't. I think I'm gonna replant because it might have been a little too cold when I planted. But I'll replant. It's not too late. This is the second bed. You see I also added this trellis, and my beans will grow up over top of that. I normally grow the Japanese long bean, purple long bean, and it's so pretty to see them hanging down. I didn't plant those because I ran out of seeds for those. Actually, I might have planted some of them. I had a mix of beans, so I knew they were all pole beans or long beans, so I planted them without really labeling them. So we'll see what we get. All in this bed, what you see are volunteer tomato plants. that again came from my composting. And what I'm going to do is transplant some more in the tomato bed and keep some for extras. So they actually seem to be doing much better in this bed, but this is traditionally not my tomato bed. I haven't really decided what I'm gonna plant in here, if anything. I may just plant in this bed around July and August and use this for my brassicas, which I haven't done in a while. And you can see these labels here. I just planted yesterday while it was raining. Some cosmos, marigolds, balloon plant. This one is crackerjack marigold and Canterbury bells. And I'm starting them in this bed, but they'll be transplanted around the garden. Here are my cucumbers. And this is typically where I do plant my cucumbers. You can see that one is already done. And I think that's my fault. I put some Epsom salt down, which is good to get them started. And I think I put some on the leaves and kind of wilted the leaves away. So I'm leaving it there, see if a new leaf will pop out. If not, I'm going to transplant one of these in the middle over there, because these are the extras. This is usually my sitting area. You see my umbrella. I have capturing my water, and that helps out really well. As you can see, my husband needs to get over here and do something, help me do something, because that is breaking is too heavy for these pallets. So my plan is not to use pallets anymore and just kind of put some ground cover down. Not a plant ground cover, but cloth, that black cloth down, so that keeps the weeds from coming up, and that's going to go all in this area. This is my compost, and there is some compost underneath there, but I'm not probably going to use it this season. I'm going to wait for the rest of this stuff to break down and put it in my beds. So these are my potatoes, and they are gorgeous. I mean, the plants are so healthy. It's like the healthiest thing in the garden, really. And I planted white potatoes, red potatoes, purple potatoes. See, that's the sign for the purple, the red, and I have one for the white as well. And I usually will just leave the signs down there as a reminder of what I planted. These are about the flower. And I only planted these, wow. So we're at the end of May. I think I planted it the 1st of May. Well, we're only like 2 weeks into May, so I might have planted it at the end of April. But man, I can't believe how they took off. This is normally where my asparagus would be. This whole area, these 2 trellises, should be full of asparagus, but they're not coming in the way I like. Oh, how about this? I'm talking about them like a dog, and there's an asparagus. And I'm gonna get that guy. But this is typically my problem. I'm not gonna pick it now because I'm gonna cut it. But my problem is that every time I see one, it's only one. I don't get a bunch, and a lot of them did not come up this year. There's a few plants there, but this thing was loaded with asparagus. So I'm gonna have to replant some. Here, this is a sunflower. Yesterday I planted some sunflowers, some more sunflower seeds all in this area. Something is eating this as well. I don't usually use sprays or things like that to keep the bugs away, so it's kind of like some stuff has to try to survive on its own. Sometimes I will put down some BTE, some BT, or it's BT or BTE, whatever it is. Sometimes I put that on my things to help with the pests if it's really bad, especially if it's on my vegetables, because I'm trying to grow that for us to eat. Flowers, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It just depends. So there's a lot of things that aren't in bloom yet. I can't name everything right now, and I don't have things labeled, but you can kind of, some of you guys may know what things are. Don't give me the line. I actually have an app that can tell me what it is, but I can't do a live video to you. I know this though is a peony, and I planted this in the fall, and look how gorgeous that flower is. Look at that. There's a lot of bush, so I'm hoping these are more flowers that will soon take off. It kind of looks like it will be, but I'm not sure. This is my strawberry bed, which eventually, you see this raised bed behind it, that's where I'm going to transplant my strawberries. Next year, this time, my strawberries will be coming out of there. But I'm gonna let these bloom because there are lots of strawberries on here. Lots of strawberries. And I really like this bed, but I don't like the strawberries spilling over into the grass because my husband will cut them off with the lawnmower without any thought. So I'm gonna have to float over out of the bed, and I'm probably gonna use this more for flowers, maybe even a cut flower garden. Excuse me. And so as you can see, I put some BT on this because the ants were tearing this up before it could even bloom. And thank God, because I saved the bloom. Now the plant looks really healthy. These are red painted daisies. They're actually like a fuchsia color, but when I brought them, it said red painted daisies. And these have been here 3 years, and this is the first year. They might have even been here 4 years. This is the first year I've gotten blooms. And every year, so I'm gonna give it one more chance. I'm gonna give it one more chance. I've had greenery with no flowers, and this is the first year I have gotten flowers. I'm so happy. Cannot believe it. And these are my lilies. Some are what they call dwarf lilies, and others, these might get, let's see, they're gonna get taller than this. I believe these get taller. They might get somewhat taller, but I'll show them to you again. And I do know that these are, I think these are poppies here. I brought these and put them in, and don't really remember what they're called, but they were a cute little purple flower. Hopefully they'll come back every year. I don't usually plant anything that isn't a perennial. Once in a while I do. But my poppies, I grow from seed, and these reseeded itself. So that's why they're kind of like cute. And you can see the sign back here. I planted some more seeds yesterday, hoping they will come up. And I don't remember the name of this bush, but I love it. It's a pretty bush. And I pruned it already, maybe 2 weeks ago. And it's like a wild child again. But I'm gonna prune it again. Just not today. Now here, I have more veggies, more. So over here, this is my, it's a mix. So here, Black Beauty, that's eggplant, right? And Sugar Baby, that's my watermelon. I normally have turmeric and garlic here. Not garlic, turmeric and ginger in these two, but I didn't plant any this year. Here, 8-ball, that's a squash, right? And I forget what this one, oh, scallop squash. Right, so they are taking off. Now, these 3 baskets at the back are normally my hot peppers, and I did plant seeds. I think that's one coming up, but I'm not 100% sure. This one has a lot of weeds in it. Again, I'm probably gonna have to replant because it was probably too cool. It was hot when I planted them, but the weather turned and turned cool. And this is my Black Beauty. And honestly, I have to find out if that actually is Black Beauty. They all came up at the same time, but I'm not 100% that that's not a weed, quite honestly. But I'll find out. So this is the very end. We used to have trees along the back where you see this brown fence. And my neighbors kept letting their dog come over here in my garden. So this flower bed back here didn't even exist. It was a row of trees between the 2 properties. I got sick of the dog coming over and peeing on all our stuff, and they didn't seem to think it was a problem. So the best thing I could have ever done was build, well, I didn't build it. I paid someone to build the fence. And I can't remember the name of this little tree I planted. This is about the 3rd tree that I've planted over here. And I'm not sure it's dead, alive. I don't know why I got rid of the label, because I never remember the names of things. But one time before I thought it was dead and it bloomed. So you can see they have these little buds on it. I'm not sure you can see it. But buds, I don't know, they look dead too. But I'm gonna leave it there for a minute. I might leave it there all summer long until I figure out what else I can plant there. This is a very big shaded area, so I knew that when I planted it, but I didn't want something that was going to grow large. I just wanted something with some pretty flowers on it, and I really liked it. So I thought it would do well there, but it did not. It did for a couple years, and I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it's just too much shade now. So if I back up, you can see all the trees and all the foliage. And this is coming from my neighbor's yard. There's not a whole lot I could do about it. And these are huge. That's a beautiful magnolia tree up against the garage. When it blooms, it's beautiful. But it's nothing I can do about the shade. So I had to find something that's gonna be able to bloom with flowers, give color in the shade, which is gonna be very difficult. And I'm going to show you this area. I call it under the trees because these are our trees on our property. And this, I redid this area. I did this walkway, by the way, by hand. I did this shortly after we had the deck built. I put down this walkway. Right? My husband and his friend and my son and his grandson built this deck, right? They were kids, the grandson and my son at the time, but they did a little to help. But mostly it was my husband and his friend, and they built this deck by code with proper inspections and all that, and they did a great job. I did this walkway by hand. This is the area under the trees. This is like a magical little place to sit. You might have to spray for bugs though, or wear socks, because the bugs will bite your ankles over here. It's just magical. Right now it's a little overgrown. Needs to be mowed. This is creeping thyme. And it smells amazing as you walk on it. It's supposed to flower. I'm not sure I've ever seen it flower. Maybe once. I think once it did. But I still like the way it looks, and I love the smell that it gives off. And it's the area here. So we have a fern. This is called a lemony lime. No, not lemony lime. It's a lime. Oh, actually, it needs here. A native plant. What is this called? A lemony lace. That's what it's called. This is called a lemony lace. And it's a shrub. It does get kind of tall, so I keep cutting it back. I don't want it any larger than what it is, and I could actually cut it back a little bit more. These are more hostas that I've, again, transplanted from the hostas that's always been on the property. This is a bleeding heart, and it bloomed already. Man, was it gorgeous. There's still a little bloom there. And it looks just like a little heart. So they were all over this plant. It's so pretty when it's in bloom. More hostas. Astabebe, which has not bloomed yet. I forget what this is called. It's not a junga. Not sure. I forget what it's called. But I'm not liking that it's not filling up the space, because ideally I built these sections with the help of my husband. And so each of these sections, I wanted the space to be filled up. You can see the Astabebe is filling up, the hosta is filling up their space, the bleeding heart is filling up the space enough, The hostas is filling up that space. This little hosta, this little guy, kind of looks like he's struggling, just like this one over here looks like he's struggling. And what I'm thinking is moving this reddish plant over here under the lemony lace, and I'll put that hosta somewhere else. And what I'm gonna do is get another one of these because I just think this is so pretty. It's so gorgeous. The silvery leaves, they're like green, silvery, whitish leaves with these purpley blue flowers. And I'm gonna get another one of these and I'm gonna put it here and have that fill up the space. I think I would like that look a lot better. I'm always moving things around because the look of the garden, like, it has to give me a certain look and a certain feel. It has to make sense to me. It's like I'm an architect, but I can't visualize it unless I put it in place. I mean, I can visualize it, but my vision doesn't always come to fruition. That's the issue. It's not that I can't visualize it, doesn't always come to fruition. And this little guy here, I just transplanted here because it had a volunteer in this section here, the hosta. So I transplanted it here. So rather than buying a little, I probably, because this is a new plant as well, it reseeded itself there. So I can take that and put it in this section and move that under the lemon lace. And it'll save me money, but it'll be a lot of work. So the creeping thyme comes all the way up here, and I call this my herb garden over here. And I just saw a video that say, oh, you shouldn't plant all your herbs together. But I kind of like them all in one spot because this is where I come to cut my herbs and put in my food, and it's close to the house. So I don't have to walk over to the back of the yard. But these herbs do take over. They definitely take over, which is why, if you can see, these are all in pots. They're not in the ground. Some of these where you see nothing, I planted some new seeds. This one, the curled leaf parsley, has sprouted. Happy to see that. And thyme, I believe that's a thyme, but sometimes I can't tell if it's a weed or what I actually planted. This one I know are sprouts just because of the way they came in. And I planted some more seeds yesterday. So we'll see. This stuff right here, this lemon balm, oh my goodness. It just wants to take over everywhere. So I just got rid of a lot of it, pulling it up anywhere I see it where it's not in this pot. And right now it needs to be cut back again. So I'm going to do that. I don't get to spend as much time as I would like in my garden just because I do have a job. And I do have to do that, and you know, that comes with a lot of work itself. These are my blueberry bushes. I had one that died. So you're supposed to plant mixed, I want to say breeds, but whatever you call them, different types, right? And I believe that these two that survived are the same type, but the one in the middle did not make it past the first year. And I did get blueberries last year, not that many, I did. This had blueberries on it. It had flowers. It didn't have blueberries, it had flowers, and I'm not sure what happened. We went on vacation, came back, and there were no flowers on it. And it's looking a little yellowy. I don't know if that's from all the rain or not. This one doesn't look as bad, and it had flowers, so now they look like blueberries coming in. I'm hoping that they're gonna get bigger. You see, I have it covered up because the first year was the best year where it had all of the blueberries, great, nice size, and I was waiting for them to ripen. And before I knew they ripened, the birds had picked them clean. So that's why it's covered, and it typically stays covered because things ripen up quicker, or they'll get them right before they are fully ripe. So just so that doesn't happen again, I keep them covered up, and I just covered them. So when those flowers disappeared, it wasn't covered at the time. And they weren't blueberries yet, they were just the flowers. So I'm not sure what happened. And I didn't see any evidence of the petals falling off, so I feel like something ate the flowers. I'm just not sure what. Probably the birds. We have birds, squirrels, we got a little bit of everything back here. We have a possum that lives back here. He actually lives, I believe, somewhere in my neighbor's yard, but he comes over here to eat. So you see all these things I have up around my plants is to protect it from the animals. Otherwise, I wouldn't have anything. These I planted 2 years ago. And these are my David Austin roses. And I have this mix of orange and white. And they are in bloom now. The orange ones are just starting to bloom. The blooms are gorgeous. Let me show you this one. Look at that rose. These are a lot of work. The petals are falling off because the white ones are very tender. Their petals fall off easily, and we've had a lot of rain, and the rain is making them fall off. But the bush itself is doing well. You see all these new buds coming up. I'm gonna go through and deadhead it. I think I'm gonna do that today after this video. And yeah, they look gorgeous though. It's a sight to be seen when you see this whole row. This has got to be like, I don't know, maybe 50 feet, 50, 60 feet of roses. And I bought these offline. They were just like, I don't know, 10 inches big. And look at them now. I have to fight to keep them healthy. They are prone to black spot. And I don't like that about them. Other than that, if it wasn't for that, it'd be easy peasy. But that black spot, that we've had a lot of rain, so I'm waiting for the leaves to dry before I spray them down. This is the garden coming down my steps when I come out the house. Right? And these were gorgeous. My ranunculus. See, you have one that still looks pretty. The rest of them are dying back. But soon are going to be the Asiatic lilies. Coming up behind that was a bleeding heart. So before they got big, this was in full bloom and looked gorgeous. It's dying back now because it's covered up by these lilies, and I am definitely going to move these lilies. I think I'm going to move them completely out of this bed. I wanted it to be a full bed with very little space, but I think I'm gonna put a different flower back there. The lilies just kind of get really big. And as you can see, I have more over here. And I'm probably gonna move, not all of them, I'm gonna move maybe 1 or 2 of them. And I'm gonna move them to the back fence garden. All of what you see here, I've planted by hand. The only thing this property came with was a bunch of trees and a bunch of hostas. There was some other stuff, but I dug up everything. The trees. I wish I had a picture before I did that, like what it looked like when we first moved on this property. It was not so much overgrown, it was overplanted. And it was kind of in a haphazard way, at least from my opinion. It wasn't structured, and it wasn't kind of orderly, which is how I like things. So these I planted from a little baby bush. I do have video of when I was planting these many years ago. We recently had this driveway done, and I wanted to make sure they saved my plants. So when I planted them, they were straight, perfect line. But the people that did the driveway dug them up and pushed them back, and he did not put them back in a straight line. But by the time he did that, it was like they were big and huge, and I should have been out here to probably do it myself. It would have come out better, but again, it would have been too much work for me. So it is the way it is. I still like them. It still makes sense where they are. It's just I've been trying to fill in this front part because now it's too much space. It used to come right up to the curb, but now he pushed them back so far, it's like it just looks like dead space. So those hostas I want to move, I'm probably going to put them here because they're a great filler. They'll fill in a space real quick. And over here are my, I don't know what this bush is called. I've never known what it's called. I'm going to use my app to figure out what the name of it is. And this is my hydrangea. Man, when you see this in early spring, it just looks like sticks coming out of the ground. And in a matter of weeks, it turns into this. And it has not bloomed yet, but you can see these are all going to be blooms. And it just gets bigger and prettier every year. Like, I love these so much, these hydrangeas. They're like the best looking flower ever. More hostas, and this whole area used to be hostas, but over time I moved them out. And actually, when I moved on the property, though, it was that vining ivy. That's what it was. This was all ivy, and it was like all up and down here. And over the years, I dug it up. I dug it all up in one year, but I still dig it up every year because it still comes back. You'll see it here or there. I just pluck it every time I see it. This one is a newly planted hydrangea. I don't know what color this is. I know these are like a bluish color. I don't remember what color these are, but we'll soon find out. Behind that, you see my azaleas, white, pink. I also like to do a color scheme. Like, when I buy plants, I'm very much into what color is it. You can see over here it's kind of like pink, white. That's why I said I don't remember what color this hydrangea is, but we'll see. It might be, I know I wanted a lemony lime hydrangea. I don't remember if I got one or not, because every time I go to get one, they never have them in stock. And this is my autumn summer, this is called. This also blooms in the fall. So I try to have something blooming every season, ideally every month. And we just walk past these peonies, like, we cannot just walk past these. I just planted these. I planted these in the fall. And my goodness, look at that. My neighbor had them. These are hers. I think those are the peonies. Maybe those aren't the peonies. I think her peonies already bloomed. Maybe they haven't bloomed yet. Or maybe they are the peonies. I think those are peonies. But anyway, I planted these because hers were so gorgeous. I said I gotta have some in my yard. And I'm gonna plant some more because there's space where I can plant them. So right here, I can put 2 more. Right in the space between the white and the pink azaleas, I can put 2 more, and that would give it balance. So I think those were left over. So I planted some in the back, and I'm gonna find some more. Exactly like that. I want them to match that and be right there. This is a different type of hosta. You know, I see these weeds in there that I have to get in and get. I actually have to tend to these little guys up here that I recently planted. These are my annuals. I do plant annuals in the pots. And we're back where we started. But the one thing I didn't show you was my Japanese maple. Now look how gorgeous that is. We used to have a big tree on the curb, and it never would be red. It would always be green because the tree shaded it. And so now that that tree is gone, this thing just, it's way bigger than what it was. We planted this when we first moved in. It was just a $30 plant from like Home Depot. And look at it now, wow. And I just trimmed it, but I feel like it needs to be trimmed again. It's hard to trim it because if you trim it too much, then it leaves like a bald spot, like trying to shape it perfectly. So I mostly just leave it alone. Thank you for going on a tour with me to see my property. Expect more. I'm gonna try to do this as often as I can. I'm not gonna commit to a time frame because it's just hard. We had the house painted last spring, and after 3 different colors, this is the color we settled on. By 3 different colors, I mean they painted it 2 colors before this, all in the blue, but it wasn't working. And I settled on this because it would have cost us too much money for him to do it a 4th time. But I'm kind of happy with it now, which is why my color scheme of my flowers now has to match the house. So I don't like the reds so much. I want pinks and oranges and whites to go with the blue. And so that's what my color scheme for my flowers are, particularly in the front of the house. The back of the house, I could get it a little bit more, you know, I can do more with color because it won't, to me, take away from the house. But pinks and oranges is what I'm trying to do here. All right, thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me. Again, I'm the Therapeutic Gardener. Like, subscribe. See you later.